Good morning, and thank you all who have joined so far. We'll just give it a couple of minutes to allow for everybody to join, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Don't want to end up a cartoon in a cartoon graveyard. Bone digger, dogs in the moonlight. Far away, my well-lit door. Mr. Beer Melon, get these mutts away from me, you know. I don't find this stuff amusing anymore. If you'll be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Betty, Betty when you call me, you can call me out. A man walks down the street.
Good morning, and welcome to our Building Momentum Mentoring Series. I'm Vladka Poljic, and I'm a director of our U.S. Women in Business team. At BMO Harris, we're passionate about supporting our women business owners and understand the essential part they play in the U.S. economy. In these uncertain times, it is crucial we support our women business owners with relevant information, practical tools, and formation of meaningful networks that can help our businesses become more resilient and scalable. We're very excited to continue our mentoring and networking events on a virtual basis all across our U.S. footprint. Our first mentoring webinar will focus on marketing and social media best practices. Today, you will learn about effective and low-cost tools, tips, and tricks that can be used to help better grow your business through online channels. You will also hear about our practical tools that we developed that can be used to support your marketing strategy. After the presentation, you will have an opportunity to ask questions and have them answered by our social media expert. Please feel free to send your questions to the question and answer chat room on the right. Now, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Kira Wegler. Kira joined BMO as a senior social media manager to support personal and business banking clients for Canada and the US. She has extensive social media marketing presence and has worked with brands to develop and launch social programs from the ground up. Kira is a true popular culture enthusiast and spends her time researching the latest social media trends. Kira is passionate about serving the needs of the business banking community and teaching and educating business owners in North America through her favorite marketing channel, social. Please join me in welcoming Kira, and thank you so much for being with us today. Kira, over to you.
Thanks, Vladka, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to teach you all a little bit about social media for business today. As Vladka mentioned, I'm not just a social media manager for my job. I'm actually quite the consumer myself, and I find that using the social platforms really helps me understand them as a consumer, which has helped me then apply it to my role. Most people who work in social media marketing didn't kind of fall into this industry. Obviously, it's a constantly evolving space. Initially, I went into communications, and then through my passion for social media and helping businesses leverage social for to serve their objectives, have really gotten me into where I am today. I'm really excited to teach you all a little bit about social media and how you can use some simple tips and tricks and apply it to your business. In my experience, social media is often considered just an extension to what's already being executed on other marketing channels. However, I'm a big proponent of social media, driving and leading with social media, and really ensuring that social is considered in the early stages of your marketing planning in order to be the most effective and drive the most eyeballs and engagement on your social media pages. So through COVID and really kind of just these uncertain times in general, social has never been more important, and we're all facing these universal business pain points, specifically pivoting very quickly your business model to online only. It's a very drastic change to go from either your an in-person business to going to online only, and it can be very overwhelming, especially with limited resources. And the good thing about social media is that limited resources is usually what you have when you're on social media. It doesn't require big budgets or big extensive understanding of the platforms. There's a lot of resources out there for you to leverage to create an effective social media strategy and presence at low costs. So the purpose of pivoting your business model to online only during COVID and just in general is really to reach your audiences virtually. And by doing so, you need to be creating ongoing and engaging content and continuing those conversations on with your consumers. In today's landscape, adjusting your tone to what's going on culturally is very important. Social is a public space, so anything you share on social media, there is an opportunity for people to comment and to have a conversation with you. So it's really important to be sensitive to what's going on culturally and in the world on social media, as social is usually a place that amplifies what is already being magnified. So you may or may not be familiar with kind of this traditional marketing funnel. Usually top funnel marketing tactics the objective is to generate awareness. So this is where people become just generally aware of your brand. And then the point of the funnel is to really push consumers down the funnel, ideally converting them into a consumer. So this funnel is applicable to some traditional marketing tactics like mass media, billboards, radio, where you're driving awareness and then you're leveraging other tactics throughout the funnel to hopefully convert someone into a sale or a consumer of your brand. The difference between kind of this traditional marketing funnel and social media is that social media is a journey. It's never finished. Once a user converts, you still need to maintain those relationships, continue having those conversations, and create this loop where once a user or a consumer does convert to a sale with your brand, it's important to continue those conversations and keep them engaged on social media so that they either become an advocate for your brand and then advocate for your brand and share their experiences word of mouth. And also to really nurture those relationships so that when they are ready to make another purchase decision, you are still top of mind and you are positioned as that industry expert. So that's where social varies from other marketing channels, is that it's a constant loop of the traditional marketing funnel where you're driving awareness and consideration and hopefully driving someone to act with your brand, but then you're also nurturing those relationships once that post-purchase experience is complete. So there's several value adds to leveraging social media for your business. One is to maintain those relationships, have conversations, and connect with your clients to really gain an understanding of who your audience is, to help inform how you should be speaking to them. There is some top funnel awareness value to social media where you're generating and increasing exposure not only to your immediate network of clients and consumers, but also to their networks as well. anytime a user engages with your social content in any way, whether that's a like, a comment, or share, that piece of content is then shared to their network. So you're really creating kind of a web of exposure, and that's really through engaging with your community. Social is a really great space to establish thought leadership and position yourself as the expert in your specific industry. On social media, it's really important to story tell and to share information that's helpful to your consumers, so that you are that thought leader in the industry. And once you're positioned as that expert, hopefully then when the user is ready to make a purchase decision, you are considered that expert. So social is a really great space to establish that thought leadership, stay top of mind, and of course, build the trust and credibility. Social is a great place to provide value through content, whether that's tips or tricks, or anything related to your industry or business, where you're not trying to sell the consumer, you're trying to establish that trust by providing them with some value-added content beyond promotional piece of content or promotional. So before we get into how you can actually apply some of these social media strategies to your business, I just wanted to briefly talk about what's trending in 2020 in the social media space. So number one is video. Video is not new to 2020. It's been kind of a consistent number one on the top trending charts these past couple of years. And that really speaks to the importance of engaging content. Video is a really great way to tell a story and to keep a user engaged beyond just a piece of static image. So I really encourage you to, if you're creating a piece of video for some other marketing channels, consider adding an extension for social, maybe a shorter cut down version of your video, and make sure that it's really optimized for social media. Within video, I'd be remiss to talk about what's trending in 2020 if I didn't mention TikTok. There are some controversies with TikTok. So although it is not recommended right now to be on TikTok for your specific business, it really speaks to the importance of video. TikTok is a series of short 15 or 30-second videos. And the rise of this platform really speaks to the importance of engaging shorter form video content. Secondly, digital creators, again, this can fit within the influencer space. So third-party users who have a significant social media presence and a large following, who have a voice and have an influence over a specific audience. So digital creators are a really great opportunity to collaborate with, because it does provide that third-party credibility. When someone else is speaking about your brand, it can be more impactful than if you are directly speaking to your brand. And lastly, really this fits within kind of the current cultural landscape. Activism has really, social media is a huge place for activism because it's a way for to communicate easily with a large audience. So that's why kind of activism is a huge proponent on social media. And with that, transparency and trust is really important. And social has really pushed for brands to take accountability and to be transparent and trustworthy. So social is a really great space to be transparent and really humanize your brand and communicate with your consumers in a way that you might not have done so in previous years or through other marketing channels. So now I'm going to go into social media kind of 101 strategies, best practices, and just a breakdown of exactly what the social media channels are, and which ones might make sense for your brand. So at a glance, this is really kind of the 101 building your social media strategy. When I'm working with or consulting for different brands, this is really the framework that I use to define a business's social media strategy. So off the top, it's really important to define what your objectives are. Are you trying to generate awareness, sales, or are you, it's really identifying what your objectives are will then help identify kind of the following items in this list. It's really important to use social media as a space as an extension to your brand voice from your other channels. Again, social is a really great space to play with your brand voice, be more human, and have conversations with your consumers that you might not have been able to have on other channels. Highlighted is defining your target audience. And the reason this is highlighted is because this will single-handedly determine what channels you're going to be on, what type of content you should be creating, and everything else within your social media strategy. So understanding who your audience is will help inform what channels you should be on. And then once you've selected a couple channels where your audience is, focus on 1 to 2 channels. You don't need to be everywhere at once. Focusing and mastering 1 to 2 channels is much more impactful than thinking you need to be everywhere at once. So if you do have a younger consumer base, consider Snapchat or Instagram. If your audience is a little older, perhaps Facebook or Twitter are the channels you should be on. Content strategy is also very important. Where I would start with defining the content strategy is thinking about 4 to 5 different themes where you can build content into, and then every piece of content that you're going to post or share ladders up to one of these themes. Especially during COVID, social is a really great space to share up-to-date information about your business. If your hours have changed, if you're only available online now, use social as a space to communicate these messages in real time and speak directly to your audiences. So just an example of kind of what some content pillars would entail. For BMO, for example, community is a really big pillar for us. So any purpose, charitable organizations that we're partnering with, or any work that we're doing in our community, that is a huge content pillar for us. Another one is providing helpful banking tips. So any kind of information we can provide to consumers to help them better understand banking as a whole is a huge content pillar for us. Another one is thought leadership as well. So establishing us as the thought leaders in the FI space by leveraging our executives and having them kind of position their voice on some relevant topic is another good opportunity for content. And then a posting strategy will kind of ladder up into your content strategy as well. So to start, I would probably post around 1 to 3 times a week, depending on what the channels are on. Quality is much more important than quantity. So if you're just pushing out pieces of content just because you think you need to, scale it back and think about investing in a couple pieces per week, as opposed to thinking you need to share a couple posts a day. And then the others following into this are really measuring your success, leveraging data and insights that social media networks provide to you to help inform what you should be doing more or less of. Paid amplification is a really good last step in your social media strategy to really amplify the posts that you are sharing to reach your desired audiences. This is something we will speak more about later on in the presentation. So all of those steps can be very overwhelming. And the number one question that I get from businesses is, where do I start? There's all of these really great ideas that you have, but what are the 1 to 2 things that I can start with to start having my business active on social? And the first step would be to define where you should be. So these are the channels that I mentioned earlier that your target audiences use, and focus on 1 to 2 channels to start. Make sure all of the channels that you're on in your pages have a consistent look and feel with your other marketing channels, so that it is easily recognizable and that it is your brand, and that it's not disconnected from your brand as a whole. Social media should be kind of an extension to your brand, and it shouldn't just be its own thing that lives in its own space. So really make sure it's integrated into your brand strategy. However, it's important to also lead with social media as well. And this is where content strategy comes in. So those content themes, define 4 to 5 different pillars that all of your content should ladder up to. And then take time around one hour a week to plan your assets for each platform. So what I would recommend is, so that you're not worrying about what you should be posting every single day, dedicate 1 hour a week where you're thinking about what your content calendar looks like for the week ahead. Do you have any upcoming events that you want to communicate to your users? Do you have any, are you doing any work in your community? Do you have any tips that you can share about your specific industry or brand? So think about those different opportunities and dedicate a specific amount of time a week to think about how you can plan out your content plan for the week ahead. And then if you are creating marketing materials for some other channels. Like I said, really consider social in the early stages and perhaps create an asset that's specific to social media as opposed to just sharing the brochure that you're sharing on email or on your website. Maybe take some bits and pieces from that brochure and create visual assets to communicate those messages in a more engaging way that makes sense and is optimized for social media, as opposed to just pulling what you've already created for other channels. And lastly, a really great early step is to engage with your community, have those conversations, respond to users that are commenting on your posts, and leverage user-generated content. User-generated content, or UGC as the kind of acronym is content that users are sharing about your business that you can repost. So say you have a shoe company and a user posts your shoes, ask them if you can then share that piece of content on your social media. That's a free and easy way to create content, engage with your community, and really provide that credibility by sharing someone else's content to your channels as opposed to just your content all of the time. So within the channel strategy, it's really important to understand the value, what the value and the strategy of each channel actually is. If you're unsure, even after this presentation, which channels you should be on, I really recommend just Googling your target audience and asking Google what social media platforms do ages X to X use. And Google can be a really great resource to help define some of those strategies that you're still unsure of. LinkedIn is a B2B platform, so it's really best to maintain new business relationships, establish thought leadership, and really position yourself as the business expert in your specific field. Facebook is a really great way to tell stories and maintain and deepen relationships, whereas Twitter is a really great space to listen and to get up-to-date news and learn from others. If you do not have lots of visual content, I don't recommend being on Instagram, for example, because Instagram is a visually driven platform. So that's also something to consider. What type of content do you have and which channels support the content that you're able to create? If you only have articles and posts on your site, maybe Instagram isn't the best place for you for now. However, there's always opportunities to expand to different channels as you get more comfortable with social media. And the reason why I say lead with social-driven content and consider social early on in your marketing strategies is because attention is the commodity that we're seeking on social media. The social media space is so saturated. There's billions of posts. What is going to make a user want to stop on your post and continue consuming and then hopefully click to your website and convert to your business? So you really have to think about it also from an audience. What would you stop on and consume? A user will decide within 2 seconds whether they will continue consuming your content or keep on scrolling. So that's really why it's important to have short, snackable, thumb-stopping content in order to gain that attention within those couple seconds that you have with the user. Something that I always ask myself when I'm creating content for social media is this entertaining, educational, or inspirational? Like I mentioned earlier, social media can be a really great space to drive leads and sales. However, from a content perspective, you really have to provide value through entertaining, educational, or inspirational content. Otherwise, a user will find a competitor or another brand that's providing that value through content that you are not. You never want to just try and sell through social media. You want to layer in strategically sales with also value-driven content in order to create these advocates for your brand. Lastly, if you're unsure of how to let your clients know where you're on or what channels you're on, consider adding the different social media icons or logos to your marketing materials, your email signatures, your signage, your collateral, to let people know where you are on social media and where they can follow you. I did want to share some pro tips for leveraging specific tools to help create content for you for your business. Canva.com would mark this one down. This is a really great free resource that's easy to use. You do not need to be a Photoshop or graphic design expert in order to use Canva.com. And what it does is it provides you with pre created templates that are customizable to your brand and your brand colors that will allow you to create posts for social media. If you do not have the budget for a graphic designer, visit canva.com, and I promise it's an easy to use platform where you will be able to create assets for your social media page. Facebook Creative Hub is a really great resource as well. It helps inform you how you can be creating socially driven content. Facebook's algorithm, you can input a piece of content into the Facebook Creative Hub, and it will tell you optimization opportunities that you can do in order to make your piece more optimized for social media. And lastly, HubSpot is a really great place to schedule your content ahead of time. So like I mentioned, it's important to invest a specific amount of hours a week into social media and do all of your content planning at one time. Using tools like HubSpot will allow you to do that scheduling ahead of time so that you don't need to be worrying about posting every single day or forgetting something. Obviously, social is a great tool for sharing real-time information as well. So you can layer in some of that pre-scheduled content with some of those real-time updates and content opportunities. I did want to share some content examples that I thought were really good ways of leveraging social media beyond driving sales or offers. So on the left, we have a post from BMO Harris Bank. It's a TBT, a Throwback Thursday, sharing an image from the 1940s of some of our BMO employees. So this kind of speaks to a really important content theme on leveraging your history to help validate your expertise. So if you're a business that's been around for a long or short amount of time, speak to your history, share fun facts about your business to help really grow, to help establish those personal relationships. And it really positions you as the expert if you do have a lot of experience in your specific industry. And it's also just a fun way to engage with your community that is still relevant to your brand and your business. On the right-hand side, this is a local consignment shop in my community that I think leverages a really great feature of Instagram, which is called product stickers. So if you are a CPG or retail business, for example, anytime you get a piece of inventory, you can take a picture of it, upload it to Instagram, and add what they call a product sticker, which has the price. And it is clickable, so it allows users to stay within the platform to understand more about your products and services without driving to a third party. We understand that clicking to a third party link could cause drop off, and people don't always want to leave the platform that they're on. So leveraging some of these free resources is a great way to highlight your products and services while still keeping within the native platform. So lastly, I wanted to just share some opportunities that I thought of that could be really valuable for you to leverage on social media. Lean on your affiliates and your partners to engage with your community. If you do have partnerships, perhaps get in on a joint contest to offer something to your community where you're encouraging users to follow both of your pages in order to kind of receive a giveaway at the end of it. And this is a really great way to not only tap into your network, it's also a great way to tap into your partners' networks and get new users and eyeballs on your content. Monitoring and engaging is really important. It can be easy to just push out content and think your work is done, but it's very important also to take a back seat and listen to conversations that are not only happening about your brand, but also about your industry and kind of business in general. Listening to conversations and hearing about what people are saying will help inform what type of content you should be creating. It's really important to also be searchable. And if you're not searchable, then people will never be able to find you. And then all the effort you're putting into social media doesn't have that value. Leverage hashtags that make sense for your brand. Create new hashtags specifically for your business and encourage your consumers to use that hashtag. Leveraging geotags is also very important. This will help people find you who are in your community. And it'll just make you more searchable and findable, and the algorithm will pick up on some of those nuances, and it'll make yourself more visible to the end user. Like the example I shared previously about those product stickers on Instagram. Instagram and all of these social media channels have free interactive elements as ways to engage with your community. Consider doing polls and quizzes and different ways to have those conversations with your users in order to have those conversations. Again, you don't need to have a graphic designer to create these polls or these quizzes or these filters. These are all available within the actual social networking platform. And lastly, analyzing your performance is a really important way to understand how your content is resonating. If you have a post that generates a lot of engagement, so that's likes, comments, and shares, that'll be an indicator too. Maybe I should be creating more content that relates to this theme because it is resonating with the community. If you're sharing something that doesn't get a lot of those engagements, that's an indication that you should be maybe doing less of that content and focusing your resources on some of the posts that are performing better. Social media is a really great kind of investigative tool for you to keep up with what your competitors are doing. So don't be afraid to check on your competitors' social media pages and pick up on cues and opportunities that they're leveraging to give you some of those ideas on ways that you can create your own unique content that's separate from your competitors, but perhaps you're gaining those insights to help inform the content that you can be doing. And lastly, I really do encourage you to complete your creative marketing workbook that Vladka will speak to more in a minute to help you get really crystal clear on your target audiences. As I mentioned, understanding who your target audience is critical to understand where you should be and what you should be doing on social media. So really take some time to create this marketing workbook to get a really great understanding of who your audience is. And lastly, I wanted to just touch on paid social media. What is it and how can you get started? So once you have kind of a holistic social media strategy and you are comfortable with the platform, you are pushing out content at a regular cadence, consider leveraging some social media advertising opportunities. Compared to other channels, social media advertising is extremely cost efficient, and it is the most impactful way to reach your exact audience. Every cent that you spend on social media is put towards targeting the exact audience that you've defined, as opposed to a billboard where you're just hoping the right eyeballs see the billboard. Social media specifically targets your post to whoever you want it to be, and you can get very granular on what those targets and audiences look like. So if you see a post, for example, that did really well, got lots of engagements, consider boosting that post. What boosting does is it puts a little bit of paid support behind that post to further reach your audiences and generate some more of those engagements. You don't need a lot of budget to boost your top performing posts. You can start off with $50 and see how that goes, and then analyze your metrics and see what is working. Maybe you need to be more broad with your targeting, or you need to be adjusting the copy because it's too long and people aren't engaging with that. Boosting your top performing post by putting a little bit of budget behind it will help you do some of that paid testing without making a large investment upfront. And I really do encourage you and this is another resource that I really hope that you will visit after this presentation, our Facebook Blueprint courses. Facebook Blueprint is essentially the social media school of how to leverage social media for business purposes. I'm sure you will still have more questions on how to leverage social media and also amplify with paid. Facebook Blueprint really provides those 101 modules to help walk you through each aspect of their platform and how you can be using them for your business. So I'm going to pass it over to Vladka now to be creative.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kira, so much. I have definitely learned some tips on how to manage my own social media presence. And I hope all of you have learned some useful tips and tricks on how to position your business through an online channel. I love what you said earlier around posts being entertaining, educational, and inspirational. And that's definitely how I filter through posts. So I thought that was a great suggestion to kind of keep in mind that those are the things that we need to then think about before we post. Before we actually head into our question and answer session with Kira, I would love to share with you a series of tools that BMO developed for business owners to leverage during these times to help you make real financial progress. Critically important tool for our marketing is already mentioned Creative Marketing Workbook, which was designed for business owners to assess customers or markets that are no longer viable and find new possibilities to promote your business. It's a very comprehensive 5-section workbook that walks through the marketing plan and shows you what potentially needs to be changed in order to have a successful marketing strategy. It also shows you how to get started and goes over the following section. So the first section is targets and trends. It helps you identify those new markets or existing markets that maybe could be used in these uncertain times, and you can promote your products to this new segment of customers. It also talks about promotions and thinking of ways that you can use to capture customers' attention, because everything is virtual nowadays and attention is so critically important. And with a statistics of 2 seconds or a very limited amount of time that each business has to capture customers' attention, I think this is a great section to go through to identify ways to capture that attention very quickly. In addition to that, credibility is extremely important. People want to trust their businesses and companies they buy their products from or services from. So this section actually focuses on ways to increase brands' trust with your customers. Partnerships are also covered in the Creative Workbook, and how you can leverage other companies, other businesses to amplify your own business. And I have seen a recent example of a business. It's a restaurant business that partner with a painting company, and they're actually hosting joint events and amplifying those events on social. And they're extremely they're interesting. They definitely caught my attention. They had mother-daughter events. They had different events that cater to different groups of people. So I think that's a great way to partner up with somebody in your network, in your community, and actually promote your business, but also do something good for somebody else's business as well. It also the marketing workbook also goes through an online section and shows how to improve your website to increase sales. So how to amplify that social strategy for your business. The link for the workbook will be put in our chat, but can also be accessed on our business, BMO Harris /business/business insights webpage, where you can download it and use it for your marketing strategy. There are other tools. There are business insights, tips and insights that can be used, and other financial tools such as cash flow projection that can also be used. All of those can also be found on our BMO Harris Women in Business site as well. Please, we encourage you to visit those. We'll make sure those are sent to you after the event. We hope that those tools, you find them valuable and useful for your business strategies. And if you ever have questions around those, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. We want your businesses to succeed. So if there's anything that we can help with, we're certainly interested in doing that. At this time, I would love to take some questions from the audience. And we did receive some questions prior to the event, so we'll start with those. And selfishly, I will choose the one about hashtags. I always struggle with hashtags. So maybe you can tell us, if you wouldn't mind telling us, how do you choose the best hashtags for your post captions? Are there any tools available that we can use, or how do we choose the best ones to make sure that we're getting the most attention from our customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I find sometimes people don't understand kind of what the value of hashtags are, and really understanding what they are and the purpose of them will then help you understand which hashtags are right for your business. So really the purpose of a hashtag is to help people discover your business. As a user, if I'm looking for tacos or noodles or something specific, I will search for that hashtag and see everything that fills within that. So it's really important to search for relevant to select relevant hashtags that are related to your business. That can be broad or that can be as broad or as specific, hopefully kind of a mix of both. The more hashtags isn't always the best. Really the quality of the hashtag is what's important, and making it specific to your business so that when a user is searching a specific hashtag, that's where your brand is findable. It's also, so in addition to making yourself searchable and findable by selecting some of those hashtags that are related to the industry that you're in or the services or products that you provide, I recommend creating a specific hashtag for your business. That is something that you can then share across all of your marketing channels and really integrate it into your holistic marketing strategy, and then can be a really great way for users to find content on social media that's specifically related to your business and doesn't fall within one of those more general hashtags. Really encourage your customers to use this specific hashtag related to your business. And then that's a great opportunity for you to then see who's using your hashtag and create and then leverage some of those user generated content that people are sharing about your brand. In terms of a resource, I would consider checking out Hashtagify. Hashtagify you can input information about your business and it will then recommend which hashtags they think you should be using. So if you are unsure and you still really don't know which hashtags make sense for you, consider using Hashtagify to help inform what those hashtags should be for your brand.
Great. Thank you so much, Kira. I find that very useful for myself and to use whenever we attend events. I mean, we always want to use hashtag and promote the event of the business we're attending. So it's those are useful tips and tricks that we can use. We did get a question in the chat asking about recording of the event. We certainly understand there are technical things, so we'll be sharing the recording of the entire event post in the email that will go out post the event. Please, I encourage you to ask any questions that you would like. This is a free, this is a very safe zone for us to ask questions. We would love to take them. I'm sure Kira has a lot of different examples to use, so we'll be happy to take any of those questions. If we don't have any questions in the chat, I'll continue with the ones that we got prior to the event. And our next question is around a video and about the length of the video. If a company is adding a video to a social media channel, what's the ideal length? Are there any recommendations? We know people are busy. For example, I know with us working full time and managing kids' e-learning, and a lot of sometimes long videos are too long for us to actually look and to extract the information. So what's the industry standard on the length, and what should be included when using video on social?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I mentioned, and as you know, Vlatka, a user will decide within a couple seconds whether they want to continue consuming the rest of your video. So it's really important to capture that attention upfront. Make sure you get your branding in within the first couple seconds. Even if a user does drop off, if you're then able to share your branding up front, then at least you generated some of that awareness. So really put that branding up front. Video length would vary by channel. For example, LinkedIn, which is more of a learning platform, longer form video might work better for LinkedIn, whereas something like Instagram, 15 to 30 seconds is recommended. 15 seconds, the shorter kind of the better on Instagram. If you do have a longer piece of video that you've created, let's say for LinkedIn or for some other marketing channel, consider slicing and dicing your video into multiple different videos so that you can then leverage on social kind of at a longer, in a longer time frame. So let's say you're thinking about creating a video on tips and tricks on something related to your business, consider doing one tip or trick per video so that you're keeping it to that 15 to 30-second length. And then you're also creating more content opportunities down the line as opposed to just sharing all of that information up front. So for video, I really do encourage to think about different series that you can create. One-off videos are really great as well. However, for more of that educational, informational content, content series, branded content series is a really great way to share that information in a concise way.
That's a great point, and I love the fact that using one tip and then you catch people's attention, then they're coming back. If the tip is useful and educational and inspirational, just like you mentioned, that's just a reason for them to come back. So thank you for sharing that. We did receive another questions regarding scheduling of the post and maybe using a company or a platform to schedule it. I know you mentioned that 1 or 3 times per week is an ideal number of posts that a company should have, especially relevant posts. So I mean, we're all busy and we're managing so many different things right now. I don't think work-life balance exists anymore. So how do we manage, how do we use tools available to pre-schedule posts, not to forget about them, but also get the most value of those relevant posts that we want to share with our customers?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the presentation, dedicating an hour or so a week to do that pre-scheduling is a very efficient way to think about strategically what content you're going to be sharing for the week. What do you have coming down the pipeline? And then schedule them in advance so you don't need to worry about it for the rest of the week. I did mention HubSpot as a tool where you can pre-schedule some of that content. However, scheduling is also available on most platforms natively. So if you go into Facebook or Instagram, you can actually pre-schedule within the specific platform if you're not comfortable using a third-party platform for that. Once you do start posting more and you're being more active, the social networks and Facebook, for example, will then tell you when your posts are performing best. When are your users most engaged with your content? And then again, analyzing and leveraging that data to help inform when you should be posting is a really great learning opportunity for you to apply those free insights that you're gaining to your posting strategy. So either leveraging something like HubSpot or the actual native platform tools to do some of that scheduling is highly recommended. If you've ever seen a post that's posted at 8 a.m. on the dot every day from a specific brand, most likely that has been pre-scheduled. Someone like myself, who's a social media strategist, I rely heavily on these tools in order to create more of a strategy than a one-off approach to social media. This allows you to understand what kind of content you have, what you should be creating more of. If you do define those content pillars, what are you missing for that specific week? What can you be creating? And then again, if you do want to create a specific asset around a tip or a trick or something that you have, but you don't have that actual asset for, consider visiting canva.com to create an easy free piece of content.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, definitely practical and useful. I'm trying to look in our question box. Please feel free to submit them. Like I said, this is a safe zone for us to ask any questions you may have, and we would love to answer them. We did receive another question around social and thought leadership. And a question was, do you have any tips to get started with thought leadership on social? And I know we talked about it as one of the ways to spread awareness, but what are some of the tips that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, so thought leadership, again, it's exactly that. It's establishing yourself as the thought leader and expert in your specific industry. As a business owner, you are the most educated and informed about your brand and your industry. So leverage that knowledge that you've generated over many years and share that information to provide some of that value add. If there is something going on, if there's a conversation that's happening culturally or in the world about a specific industry and you're in that industry, perhaps think about penning a byline and write a quick article on LinkedIn about your perspective of that relevant topic And again, this really positions yourself as the expert by sharing your expertise. There's different ways that you can share that thought leadership content. Again, drafting bylines from your voice and speaking to your consumers as the industry expert is a great way to establish that thought leadership. Leveraging the knowledge that you've garnered over the years. If you work for retail, for example, and you're in the leather business, what information do you have to share about maintaining leather, for example, that would be useful to your consumers? Perhaps there's something going on culturally about the leather industry or the ethics behind leather that you can share your thoughtful perspective on. So really scaling it back and pretend like you're giving one of these presentations and you're educating someone on your industry or on your business, and share those insights from your specific voice. Thought leadership is a great way to humanize your brand and to speak to your consumers as a business owner and not just as a business, as a way to generate those thoughtful and impactful conversations beyond just sharing marketing messages.
Great. And it's such a nice way of that subtle selling and making sure that, like you talked about, don't maybe not overly selling the company, but through that, build that credibility and trust and awareness. And I definitely do a lot of, I read a lot of posts that were created by different companies, and I just become a little bit more connected to them. And I feel like I'm more prone to buy their products and services and really value their insights in the industry, because we all need this meeting in person and everybody's virtual. We'll go through two more questions, but we'll be paying attention to our question and answers box. Please do feel free to submit them. We would love to take them. So our next question that we received is around social media listening. Are there any free social media listening tools that you would be able to suggest?
Yeah, so social listening is a really valuable resource, not just for kind of your listening to what people are saying about your business, but what people are saying about your competitors and the industry as a whole. So when you are kind of posting on social media and you receive comments on your posts, that's a way that you can see what people are commenting on your own pages. The difference between kind of that direct listening and the listening vodka that I believe you're referring to is that social listening allows you to tap into conversations to understand what people are saying who do not mention your business. So in a lot of like the traditional social media monitoring tools, they do not pick up on conversations that are happening outside of mentions about your specific brand. So for example, I used to work for heating and cooling company. So we would do social listening around people's air conditioning and furnace trouble. So when someone would say, my furnace is out, does anyone have a really a local company that they would recommend? That is a listening that did not mention our specific brand, but a good opportunity for us to jump in and say, hey, yes, we actually we do offer those products and services. Feel free to give us a call. So for listening, there are some native functionalities within the platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn that allow you to provide some of those listenings. It can be a manual process, so you might need to search specific terms related to your business to pick up on those conversations. However, if you are invested in social media and you really do consider this as a strategic priority for your business, I would recommend investing a couple $100 into one of these, into a platform such as Sprinkler or Sprout that provides those comprehensive listening functionalities. Listening is a nice to have. So if you are kind of considering what your priorities should be within planning your social media strategy, listening would kind of be on the bottom end where with paid amplification. Once you are comfortable with social and you do have a good rhythm and you're constantly kind of pushing out that content, the next step would be to listen to those conversations and jump in on relevant conversations happening about your brand and your industry.
Great suggestion. Thank you so much, Kira. The next one actually comes is around the Facebook posts. And the question is, I'd like to start adding some money to promote my Facebook post. Is there a minimum dollar spent I should be using when promoting a Facebook post?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, compared to other marketing channels, the investment and the commitment is extremely low. It can be whatever you're comfortable with. The good thing about social media is that you can play around with different budgets that you have. So to start, if you want to boost, let's say, a top performing post on your page, you could use $50 to $100 and have that in market reaching your desired audiences within 5 days. So compared to other marketing channels, social media is usually 10 times more efficient in terms of stretching out your marketing dollars. So start off small, see what's working, and then considering increasing your budget and applying pay to every post that you have. So something that can be confusing is what's the difference between when I see when I'm saying boosting a post that's doing well on your page, or those ads and offers that you might see on social media. So those are kind of categorized into different types of content. Feed posts are those value-added pieces of content that you're sharing directly to your page. If something is doing really well, you can boost that post and then get more eyeballs on that specific piece of content. Whereas a dark post, which is social media advertising, is actually creating posts that are targeted towards your specific audience that are not visible on your feed at all. So the reason why these two are separated is you do not want your social media feed to just be sales and offer related content. Your feed should be dedicated to that value added, educational, inspirational, informational content, whereas dark posts are offers and ads specifically to drive those sales for your business. So I just wanted to create the understanding, kind of the difference between a feed post and a dark post. There are advertising opportunities for both areas of content, but if you do see an ad on your page that has a specific offer, that wouldn't be visible on that brand page if you went searching on their feed. So there's for paid, start off small, get comfortable, boost your top performing pieces, and then start to apply paid to more of your posts.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm definitely all about high value, low cost. So that certainly is a great way to get as much value for a low dollar amount that we possibly can. I would like to ask the audience if there have any questions regarding our tool, Creative Marketing Workbook. At this point, we would be happy to answer those questions. So I'll give it a little bit time to see if anybody has any questions. We would love for you to be able to download it from our webpage. I know it's on our chat, but it's also available on our BMoHarris/business/business insights tab. And if you, for some reason, can't find it, please feel free to reach out to us. We will share our information. We understand that sometime during the presentation, you're listening, trying to absorb so much information, and some questions may come up later. We're certainly happy to take those questions at a later time, later date, and address them.
And Vladka, one last point that I wanted to make. This is really a frequent question that I get all the time is, how do I build my audience? What is the purpose of posting if no one is going to see it? And really the only way that you will build your audiences is by consistently churning out pieces of content. You need to provide that ongoing value so that when someone visits your page, they see that you're constantly pushing out posts and you're not just a dormant page who posts once every 3 months. So it might seem ineffective at first that no one is seeing your content, but you are building your social media resume and you are providing that value. So when people do visit your pages, they will follow you. So it could feel like a slow process at first building that community, but I promise once you start consistently churning out that value added content, your community will organically build as a result.
Such a wonderful suggestion, Kira. Being top of mind, I think, is key during these times. So thank you for that. Thank you for a great suggestion. Well, if there are no other questions, I would like to thank you, Kira, and all of you for your time today. We know that your time is valuable and that you're running your businesses, your companies, your families, your everything else that needs to be taken care of during these times. And we hope you learned some useful tips and tricks on how to manage your social media presence and how to position your business through an online channel. We will be sending out a survey at the end of this event, and we would love if you could fill it out. Let us know how we can do better. We're here to help, and we're here to listen to you, and we're certainly going to take into an account anything that we can improve in order to make your experience better. I would also invite you again to visit our website, Business Insights or Women in Business, for more tools. There are more financial tools, more marketing tools that can be leveraged in order to support your business growth. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. We're here to serve your needs. And if there's anything we can do, we're certainly happy to do that. Thank you again so much for being with us today, and enjoy the rest of your day.